Good morning, Vietnam!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family.
Here's Johnny!
Whoa, this is heavy. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Working on my day off.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Showtime with Roman podcast, the not-so-feature-length podcast where I, your host, Roman RBC, brings on a guest and we chat about our favorite thing in the entire world, movies. And this week I have on, after a very long hiatus, I was gone for a month, I didn't have internet, and I was like, when I come back, I gotta get a really cool guest, and it's actually someone that I got to know pretty well over the last month, and that is Paul Oyama. Paul, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, long-time listener, first-time caller. No, but I don't know. I'm excited to be on the podcast. Don't call it a comeback. Roman's been here for years.
Yeah. It was funny. I was watching Persona, and I had just gotten done watching Seven Samurai the day before, and we had started talking because you're a big Akira Kurosawa person.
Some would say.
Yes. I think that out of all of the friends on my friends list on Facebook and that I've talked to, you are by far the biggest Akira fan I've met. So we just started talking, and I was watching Persona, and I was like, okay, I'll watch this. I only got like an hour left, and then I'll go to bed. And then there's that crazy sequence right in the middle that just really unsettled me, and so I was up all night, and so we just chatted for I think like 5 hours roughly, just about a bunch of stuff. And I was like, dang, I got to get this guy on the podcast. And so now you're my first guest back from being gone for a month. And here we are. We got a lot to talk about today. We got some San Diego Comic-Con trailers and some new trailers that just dropped earlier today. We're going to review Mission Impossible Fallout, which was my most anticipated film of the year, and preview this week's wide release Christopher Robin. And then we're going to talk about James Gunn. And obviously, it's something that I don't know if I really wanted to do for a long time because I figured everything had been said about it, but there's more information, more things to be said, and I think it's really important to talk about, especially to lend my perspective and even yours to the internet space. So let's just get right into it. Oh, before I do, you're a big fan of Suspiria, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't want to lend it. We talked about this yesterday. I didn't want to lend an entire topic or segment to talking about the runtime because, well, the runtime for Suspiria was released, and it's like 2.5 hours, or pretty close to that, and the original, the Dario Argento film, is like an hour and a half or like an hour and 40 minutes, I think. And that runtime flies by, perfect runtime for that film. And now Luca Guadagnino is going for a rock solid 2.5 hour runtime. There's obviously not many thoughts to give, but do you think that he's just going to add more? Do you think he's just going to... Because based off the trailer, it felt like he was giving us these elongated shots, much more lengthier pace. So how do you feel about that, just briefly?
It seems like he's giving more of a lived-in feel rather than sort of the get-in, get-out sort of Argento approach. But I think, I don't know, it makes sense. Luca's other movies are all over 2 hours, so I wasn't surprised that it was longer than the original. Yeah. It was a little longer than I expected, but yeah, like you said, like there's not really much to be gleaned from runtime, especially when we haven't really like seen much outside of like that first trailer and stuff.
Yeah, and you know, you can't say it's a good runtime or a bad runtime. I mean, you can't really judge until you see the film. But you know, I'm curious. I'm definitely interested. Really excited for the film. It's one of my most anticipated of the year. I'm gonna see it in theaters, and I usually don't see horror films in theaters just because, one, audiences are garbage, and two, the theater experience is a cathedral. And I don't know if I want to sit in like a super large auditorium getting the pants scared off of me.
Oh, really?
So, but I'm pumped for Suspiria. That's why I'm waiting for Hereditary to drop on VOD so I can watch it at home at 9 a.m.
See, I'm the total opposite. I like watching horror in the theater because it's such like a visceral reaction that you're having like with other people. I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, it's just I've never had a bad theater going experience in my life, and I'm not about to let it happen ever. And horror movies are the ones that do it. Horror movies and MCU movies terrify me the most. But anyways, San Diego Comic-Con was a couple weeks ago, and they dropped a lot of awesome trailers, a lot of confusing trailers. We're going to talk about a couple of them briefly, and then we're going to get into some recently released trailers outside of San Diego Comic-Con. So we're going to start with Shazam. I'm going to go first and just say I thought this was the best trailer we've gotten in a long time. Recently, with the release of Incredibles 2 after 14 years, obviously very excited. It didn't quite live up to expectations, and I found myself realizing that I was kind of distancing myself from superhero films in the connection I had towards them, because I feel like for a long time, even though I loved like Wonder Woman and I loved Black Panther, that's obviously made and geared towards a demographic that it doesn't fit for me. Because obviously I'm just a standard white male, and then and I was geared more towards like the black demographic and the female demographic respectively. And then like I said, for a long time I just was like, there's not really anything for me anymore. Because although I love Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, obviously not very beloved, but Shazam, just every single part of that trailer I loved. I laughed. I thought Zach Levi's casting was incredible, and I'm just excited. It just feels like a genuine, honest, earnest superhero film, and I seriously cannot wait. It's my most anticipated comic book movie for the next couple years. I'm stoked.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally in the same camp superhero wise. I think like a lot of my favorite stuff has actually been really recent. When you look at like Logan, Black Panther, Wonder Woman, stuff like that. But yeah, I like this trailer a lot. Like you said, the Zach Levi casting is pretty great. Like it's just like, I don't know if you know the show Chuck, but this trailer felt like if Chuck Bartowski became a superhero, and that's kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
The whole gag with his foster brother when he's in the beginning, when he's like, I'm a foster kid with disabilities. I got it perfect. That cracked me up. Yeah, it was just like a really fun feel. It had that sort of coming of age vibe, which is definitely something that drew me in personally. And I think it just looks really exciting and fun, I guess, most of all, which is sort of the most important thing here.
Yeah, I usually don't like to say the word fun when describing the way I'm feeling, but it genuinely feels that way because everyone was complaining oh my god, I can't believe they put the floss dance in a superhero movie. How stupid. It's like, this is a kid. This is a teenager with superhuman abilities. He's gonna do silly things. I would probably dab if I was able to turn into a superhero on camera. I would do it twice, right hand and left hand.
Oh god.
So but
you weren't kidding about being the standard white male, by the way.
Yeah.
Dabbing comment.
But yeah, it looks really good. I can't wait. My brothers are so excited. But yeah, I can't wait. Next up, also released at WB's conference at San Diego Comic-Con, Aquaman, releasing later this year. I'm going to go ahead and let you start with this one. What are your thoughts on that Aquaman trailer?
Yeah, so the Aquaman movie itself is just something that I've been really excited for a while, on a couple of fronts. And this trailer, I thought it was good, not great. I did love sort of the feel that a lot of the actors are going for in their performances. I thought that Momoa was seen better, more enjoyable in this than I found him in Justice League, which in Justice League I just was not interested in his character at all. It was a little too broy and over the top, but I think that Juan sort of nails a slightly more reserved version of that. I was excited to see sort of his journey from being a kid to being an adult, but yeah, I mean, I'm mostly just stoked because seeing for me at least, seeing an Asian filmmaker and a Pacific Island hero is really exciting, and a different type of representation that I hope gets the sort of push that you get from other recent movies that you sort of mentioned. I'm pumped for Patrick Wilson, who I think is an incredibly underrated actor.
100%.
I think he elevates every movie that he's in, and he just looks I think he's going to be a perfect casting for this. I saw a lot of people talking about Amber Heard not being good. I thought she was solid from what I've seen in the trailer. I thought sold the Queen sort of vibe that they're going for there. And there's a lot of stuff about the CGI it's a little CGI heavy, the city, but I think that's not necessarily a problem, and that's kind of just going to happen when you're filming an underwater magical city of Atlantis. I'm not sure, did you want them to film real fish and I don't know. Come on. Guys.
I thought the trailer was okay. Aquaman was my least favorite part about Justice League. Amongst all the other things that film, I seriously did not like him. His characterization was so flat. There's no writing there, underwritten. In this one, I didn't even think about it till I saw some tweets after I watched the trailer, but they were going for a sort of Blade Runner type of look for Atlantis, and I rewatched the trailer with that mindset, and I was like, I'm kind of digging that, with the technology, with the way that the city looks, and sort of like dwarfing these characters amidst this like beautiful, larger than life world. And I'm excited on that front visually. I don't think I've seen any of James Wan's work ever.
Really?
TV, film. Yeah, I don't think I've seen a single piece.
I guess you're not a big horror guy, but that sounds crazy.
Yeah, exactly. My brother, he's a big James Wan fan. Is one of his favorite filmmakers. He said if he were to direct films, he'd want to direct it like James Wan. He said that he's really excited because of the way that he's able to move the camera. I haven't seen the Conjuring films, and everyone tells me I would love them, but he says the way he uses the camera and utilizes space is something that really excites me, because it's something that I appreciate a lot when I see a movie. It's like, if you can do something unique with the camera, then you've already got me, like, at least generally liking the film. And so I was kind of getting vibes in the trailer. The part that concerns me the most is the dialogue, and I'm not a big fan of Jason Momoa as a performer. They are going for that more dude bro-y type, but it does seem a little more reserved, and I think that James Wan's going to be able to deliver on that front. And I also appreciate, outside of Suicide Squad, the DCEU has done a really good job of showcasing these kids when they are showcasing these heroes as when they're kids, and they're kind of dealing with sort of these hardships. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about this universe that no other universe has done, and I really appreciate that, because it sort of lends like a larger scope to that character's arc. I mean, Man of Steel obviously has very non-linear plot in that film, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because I was able to get immersed in that character and that character's journey. And I think that although it's brief, and like Wonder Woman and especially BVS, because we've seen Batman's origin so many times, we're gonna get that again in Aquaman, and we're definitely gonna get that in Shazam. So I'm really excited for Aquaman. I think it's gonna be a pretty decent film, but yeah, it's pretty solid. So
yeah, definitely. By the way, yeah, your point about the way Wan uses the camera, like, he leads into space a lot, is something that he heavily uses in The Conjuring. And I think, yeah, like, that's definitely like spot on, that he's not necessarily inventive, but like super creative when it comes to his approach of shooting like scenes that are otherwise could be like way more simple.
Yeah, I'll probably check out some of his work before I see Aquaman, just so I can, because when I write my review, I want to make sure I'm a little more literate with his work. So
yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that. Next up is Godzilla, one of the most popular trailers, a lot of people's favorite trailer. I thought the trailer was fantastic. The way it looks, I believe it's directed by Michael Dougherty, I believe it's how it's pronounced. He did Trick or Treat.
Dougherty, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen Trick or Treat, but everyone says it's one of the favorite cult classic like Halloween movies. And I'm really excited. The visuals knocked my socks off. The music was incredible, the pairing of that, and it just felt very epic. A lot of people are like, oh, finally they're going to give us so many monsters, and I question if those people have seen the original Godzilla, because the original Godzilla doesn't really have a lot of Godzilla in it either, and it's more so a science fiction piece about, humanity and toying with things they shouldn't toy with. And so I love the 2014 Godzilla film. I think is one of my favorite experiences ever. Went with like 6 other people, and when Godzilla his nuclear breath lit up and he was shooting at the EMP monster or whatever. Yeah. What an experience. The whole theater roared. It was incredible. So what are your thoughts on the Godzilla King of Monsters trailer?
Yeah, I really dug it as well. I will say, if you're going to tout him doing Trick or Treat, he also did Krampus, which is pretty bad, frankly, which is his more recent work. But yeah, overall, I'm still pretty excited. I love Kyle Chandler, so I just love seeing him in a movie like this.
Yes, so underrated.
Fits really well. O'Shea Jackson Jr. just typecast, I guess, as a soldier again, which is interesting. But
yeah,
no, I like it from a visual standpoint. I think it's really interesting. I liked Godzilla 2014 a lot as well. I liked the more reserved style that Gareth Edwards went for with that, and not just having like a kid bash together 2 action figures the entire time. I actually liked the minimalism with not showing Godzilla as much. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm not sold on Millie Bobby Brown as sort of the lead, but I think that'll be something that sort of develops as time goes on. Yeah, I'm overall pretty excited for the movie. Definitely think I'm going to like it more than Kong Skull Island, or at least I hope so.
Yeah, I've seen Kong once. I have it on Blu-ray. My brother just moved out, and I think he brought it with him. But I'll definitely be giving it another go. Millie Bobby Brown, I don't love Stranger Things, but I think she's a really talented performer, and I think she showcases the most range out of all the other actors that I've seen on there, outside of what's his face that's going to be Hellboy. I'm forgetting his name right
Ron
now.
Perlman. No, David Harbour.
No.
David Harbour. What am I
Yeah,
talking
yes,
about?
there we go.
Jesus. Cut that out.
Yeah, I'm excited for her. I'm excited for Vera. Can never pronounce her last name. She's going to be great.
Farmiga.
Yes, and Kyle Chandler. It's good cast. I'm excited. Hopefully, it just doesn't turn into like this overbloated affair. But I was talking to my brother about it. He's a huge monster fan because he hadn't seen any of the trailers all day, and I showed him all of them. And I saved Godzilla for last because he's such a huge fan, and so he watched it like 6 times in a row. And so we were kind of talking about how we anticipate like what could happen in the third act because he's gonna fight King Ghidorah. Right, I mean, we saw that big shot in there, and so obviously it's in the same universe as Kong. And so I pitched the idea to him. I was like, "What if Godzilla's just getting handed to him? Right, like he's just taking on like this 3-headed monster, and he's just getting his ass whooped. And then all of a sudden, you just see this furry fist just fly into frame and just wallop this monster in the face, and you see Godzilla and Kong team up in the third act. I think that would like be just monumental. One of the most monumental. It's probably not going to happen." But
I would say
incredible.
the title says it's probably going to be a solo effort by Godzilla, but that would definitely be an interesting way to approach that.
Yeah, I'm excited. Next up is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. So you said you had a very interesting opinion about this one. I am probably one of the world's biggest Harry Potter fans, and I'll let you start.
I don't know if it's that interesting of an opinion. I'm still angry about Johnny Depp replacing an actor who's like at least 10 times better than him and way more interesting. I mean, the trailer I thought was cool from a visual standpoint. I thought it was more visually interesting than like a lot of the later Harry Potter fare, which kind of blends together for me. Even though I like the movies, I think that sort of visually they got stale. I think this is sort of an interesting direction to take, I think. I'd love to see more with Catherine Waterston, who, much like her character, feels really overqualified for this movie, in my opinion, in her role. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That's like, I'd call it Fantastic Sleeps. That was like one of my least favorite movies, 2016. But I mean, I'll potentially give this a shot. I don't know. I'm still not super in on Redmayne as Newt Scamander. But it was something, I guess. And I do like Jude Law in this, so we'll see how this movie turns out. I don't know. What did you think about it? Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's a single bad film in the Harry Potter franchise, including Fantastic Beasts. I think they're all at least good. I think there's some issues in the first one and the second one, and Fantastic Beasts is right towards the bottom with Order of the Phoenix. But it's the trailer to me. It seemed very busy, and I don't know if I like Jude Law as Dumbledore. And I think Johnny Depp might be able to bring something, but it just seems like something that we've seen before. And then I personally love Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander. I think that he fits the characterization of a Hufflepuff house character very, very well. In fact, I'm actually probably working on a video essay in defense of him. But I think that it looks like it could be fun visually. It looks like a lot of cool things are going on. That's what I'm excited about. I wish Colin Farrell was a part of it. Catherine Waterston. They always give these movies a great cast. And that's one of the reasons that they end up being so popular, is because it definitely brings in that UK audience. And then obviously the American audience is more commercial. But I'm excited, but at the same time hesitant. And I'm feeling the exact same way I was about the original Fantastic Beasts, where it's a part of this universe that I love, but I just don't know. I mean, this is going to sound like a super big shot at the MCU, but I'm just saying I really wish sometimes that they didn't exist, just so all these movies didn't have to feel like they had to be spinoffs. And I wish these studios didn't think they had to make everything interconnected, and I wish they could go off and gallivant and tell their own stories. And it frustrates me because what we're going to talk about later with Mission Impossible Fallout, it's everything I love about franchise filmmaking when franchise filmmaking is at its best. But Crimes of Grindelwald looks okay. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I'll be there day one. I'll bring my wand that I got at Universal. I'll probably wear robes. I'll probably wear my Hufflepuff pants, whatever. But it's whatever. We'll see.
I will say, interestingly enough, for someone who's an author, I think that J.K. Rowling's a pretty awful screenwriter. Like I think
100%.
the biggest flaw of the first movie is probably the writing. Aside from the casting of Johnny Depp, obviously. But yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if she spices that up at all, or if the dialogue is still like pretty stale, like I thought it was in the first movie.
Yeah, I just wish that David Yates wasn't directing anymore, because he's directed the last. Let's see, he directed Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood, Deathly Hallows 1 and 2, Fantastic Beasts and Nuts. That's 6. That is 6 films in a row in the same franchise, and I mean, you've got a franchise that was built off of the foundation of who was it? Cuarón that did 3, right? So
it was Chris Columbus and then Cuarón, and then it sort of changed.
Mike Newell, and then
and then
okay,
Yates,
so
it became a Yates affair from there.
Yeah, it just kind of became his thing, and it makes me mad. I wish he could have got at least like Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, which I think is one of the best ones. But I just wish they would get someone new, just so they can just do something different with the camera, do something cool. I mean, you've got a franchise here. Do what Mission Impossible does. But I'll get to that later. So next up is one of the most interesting like plot lines for me as a entity.
Oh,
so when Venom was announced, I was like, okay, Sony's doing their thing. I don't mind it. I like that Sony isn't just going to make everything connected, because I feel like that would make everything stale if everything is a part of the same universe, boring, blah, blah, blah. First trailer came out. I generally liked it because I thought that it conveyed this sense of like the symbiote sort of overtaking you, and sort of how you react and sort of how you lash out, and it can sort of personify that with a more tangible symbiote. The second trailer came out, thought it was awful. And this third trailer, okay. Tom Hardy is one of my favorite performers ever. He's one of the best working right now. Multi-talented, unbelievably talented. He always gets his face covered, but he always brings it with his eyes. He's got really good physical acting. It's a great gift. But someone posted after they saw the trailer, he sounded like a little kid. The dialogue is so bad.
Who let this man be a journalist? Seriously.
Yeah, I know. I don't even believe he's a journalist. 1, he's way too good looking. 2, it's like he's just this super stocky guy. I mean, he sounds like an idiot. He goes, "My name is Eddie Block. I'm a reporter." It's just like, oh god, it's just so bad. What I will say is I thought the visual effects were kind of cool, and I think they're gonna do something kind of unique with the action. But even then, like with just the Venom like spurting out of his back or whatever, it's just so stupid. And then that sequence towards the end, he's like talking to this guy at the gas station. For some reason, I feel like I remember it word for word, but he's like, "I'm gonna bite off your arms and your legs, and you're gonna look like a doormat." Except it sounds significantly worse because his voice sounds like he's drowning under.
That was so bad.
Yeah. He goes, "You'll be flying
That's
away
not
like
even
a
a real
turd
phrase.
in the wind."
That's not even like a real phrase.
I know. It just looks awful. It looks absolutely awful. What are your thoughts on Venom?
So I'm not sure what my thoughts are really. Much like you, I was pretty disappointed with just the way that the Eddie Brock character seems to be playing out in front of our eyes. He doesn't really feel like a reporter in any sense. Mm-hmm. That scene, the scene at the very, very end of the trailer is what really, really like turned me off. When he's like telling the guy like we're Venom, and it's just, oh man, the way it's written is bad. The director is like the biggest one-hit wonder I've ever seen.
He made
Zombieland, but then he went on to make 30 Minutes or Less, Gangster Squad, and like the worst episodes of some actually good television shows. So, Ruben Fleischer would not be high on my list, but and I'm really excited for Riz Ahmed Gets Wasted in a Blockbuster Part 3 this time. A great actor, just never utilized right in big movies, I feel like.
Michelle Williams is in this too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for Jenny Slate and Michelle Williams, 2 of my favorite actresses. I think they'll be good and fun anytime they're on screen, but I'm just, I don't know, nervous for the overall direction of the movie. I did like at the end that sort of like wry smile that Tom Hardy gives. That sort of gave me a hint of, oh, maybe this could be fun. But yeah, I don't love just the way that he talks to the symbiote. Like the way their conversations kind of play out was sort of turning me off. So I'm
it just seems like
as stoked on this movie as I would have been if you told me it was a Tom Hardy, Riz Ahmed, Michelle Williams, Jenny Slate Venom movie. Like that sounds like it would be cool.
Yeah, it just the the dialogue. I can't get over it. It sounds just horrible. But Woody Harrelson is apparently in this too. He might be playing Carnage. That's the rumor. One of the greatest character actors probably to ever live. So he'll probably be wasted and set up for a sequel we'll never see. So that'll do it for the blockbuster trailer talk. Now on to one of my most anticipated films of the year with one of the most incredible casts of the year. Boy Erased, starring Lucas Hedges. If you don't know anything about this movie, it's kind of eerily relevant. So this kid, he's going through, how old is he? He's like a teen, right? Or he's like a young...
he's 19, I think. It's like, yeah, he's 19.
Yeah, so he's sort of going on this journey and sort of discovering, his sexuality and stuff like that. And he's a stout Catholic family, and his parents find out that he's, how would I phrase it? I mean, I don't know if I don't want to sound like... So basically he finds out that he's gay, or not finds out, sorry. See, this is what I'm saying. So anyways, he basically uncovers something about himself, and so his parents find out, and then they want to send him to this camp where they believe that if he goes there, he'll be trained to be straight, because they believe that
camp might be
a little too of a safe word.
Yeah, a little soft.
A prison. He's gets sent to like this prison area, and Joel Edgerton is there. It's directed by Joel Edgerton, who directed The Gift, one of my favorite thrillers of the last few years. And it looks just very, very sad, very relevant, very powerful. Lucas Hedges is one of the most dynamite young actors working today. We're going to see him for decades, and I cannot wait. And it just, Russell Crowe's in there, and it just looks like a really great family drama that is going to cause some controversy, but bring up some discussion. And I'm really genuinely excited. I cannot wait to be there. There's obviously Oscar nomination talk, but it's only July, so who knows? Maybe it just becomes like a heavy-handed, like ham-fisted effort. But what are your thoughts on Boy Erased?
I will make a small correction. I believe he's in a Baptist family, not a Catholic one. So I'm sure all you Catholics that are out there sounding off right now, you can ease up on that. But
yes.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this movie. Edgerton, I think, is really interesting as a director. I think coming from the acting background, he's got like a unique perspective sort of to bring to that whole realm. But I mean, I'm stoked for Nicole Kidman in like a movie that I'm actually excited about for the first time in like a really long time. Like you said, Hedges is great young actor. I love seeing fat Russell Crowe as like my favorite Russell Crowe. So that's something that I'm personally really pumped for. It'll be super interesting. I think it's set in Boston, so I think that sort of Baptist culture really is strong there. That just general the sort of religious feel in that community is something that's sort of enhanced by the area that he's in. And it's interesting. This and Miseducation of Cameron Post, two gay conversion therapy movies coming out in the same year, both ones that I'm really excited for. Thought this was a great trailer. Super excited. I'm sure it'll get a lot of awards buzz at the very least, if not awards love itself. But I'm stoked for this movie. Yeah,
I'm really excited. Growing up in a very, I mean, not so much now, but growing up in a household that was very strict on like following like faith and everything, and not questioning it, and kind of just listening to your parents and pastors and whatnot. It was, it's kind of scary like looking back in hindsight, and then kind of seeing what these movies are conveying to me recently, especially with this year's First Reformed and stuff like that. We're kind of in a really interesting era of film right now where every film, even if it's intentional or not, seems like relevant, which I guess, that's kind of the point of film to begin with. I mean, I always use this example because people are like, oh, I like to go to the movies for escapism. And I'm like, oh, I don't think you should really relegate movies to that, because I feel like, listen, Drago is a Russian for a reason in Rocky IV. It's not just an accident. It's not a coincidence. So movies have always been like that. And I'm excited for Boy Erased. I think it's going to be a really powerful film. So, I'm going to let you go ahead and start with If Beale Street Could Talk, directed by Barry Jenkins, who is the Oscar-winning director of Moonlight, 2016's Best Picture winner. We kind of talked about it briefly because I literally just watched it before we started recording. What are your thoughts on one of your most anticipated films of the year? Yeah, so it's my second most anticipated of the year overall. My most anticipated that's yet to be released. I have a pretty long-standing relationship with Barry Jenkins as a filmmaker. I've been a fan of his ever since his 2008 movie Medicine for Melancholy, which is a phenomenal drama as well. But yeah, Moonlight is
is one of my favorite films of all time. I know it's fairly recent, but I just love that movie to pieces. And this is a great novel. I've actually read the novel by James Baldwin.
Cool.
And this is a movie that I'm super excited for. I love this trailer. It's, again, Barry Jenkins is someone who I think is, the way that I sort of phrase it is that he's kind of visually quiet but emotionally loud. And I think that the emotion in his films is really pressing and on the surface. And I think it's bubbling up in every scene. I loved the relationship between all the characters in this. And I think that the confliction sort of with this woman who's sort of fighting for her husband. I don't want to get too much into it, just because I'm not sure how the movie will reveal and not reveal certain aspects of the movie. But I'm really excited for this sort of family drama and to see people fighting for their loved ones and stuff like that. So yeah, what did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was fantastic. I'm not a big fan of Moonlight. Again, we talked about it briefly before we started recording. I thought it was good. I do, outside of his dialogue scenes that he shot, I really appreciate his camera work, and you nailed it. I mean, you heard my verbal response. That's pretty much the way I saw the trailer. Is like it felt like someone was blowing a bubble, and I was just waiting for it to pop, but it wasn't popping. And I just was, it just seems like something is going to happen in the film that is just going to, that I don't anticipate, and that it's going to be emotionally resonant and very loud and very powerful. And it just looks incredibly well acted. I know it's obviously cut up and it's edited in certain ways and scenes don't line up with each other, but every actor you saw on screen, not a super familiar face in the crowd, just a lot of great performers. And it seems like a very personal film to Barry Jenkins. That's kind of the vibes I was getting from the way that he was shooting, like characters walking in the streets set to the backdrop of these households. And it just looks incredible. I really cannot wait. It's shot right up there, right near Boreal Race, is one of my most anticipated films of the year. I seriously cannot wait. He's obviously coming off of Moonlight, so there's lots of hype for that.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
Again, on the actor thing, I thought it was interesting. There's like he basically only showed the black actors in the cast, because like Ed Skrein, Pedro Pascal, Dave Franco, I believe, are all also in this movie. But he chose to focus on the black characters, which I think are going to be more of a focal point anyway. But I'm psyched to see Brian Tyree Henry, one of my favorite actors of the last few years. I'm a huge Atlanta fan, and he's having like a crazy year. If you look at like the movies that are coming out just this year alone, he's going to be in this. He's going to be in White Boy Rick. He's going to be in Widows. He's going to be in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and he was also just in Hotel Artemis. So Brian Tyree Henry's having a hell of a year. It's at least shaping out to be that way.
Yeah, he's. I haven't seen any of his other work, but I'm excited because there's a couple shots in the trailer where I was like, "Damn, that dude can act." Yeah. So I'm excited. So that'll do it for the first topic. We covered a lot of ground there with the trailers. Next up, so I was really bummed out I didn't have internet to preview Mission Impossible Fallout because it's my most anticipated film of the year. But I saw it last week in IMAX with my mom and dad. And so we're going to review that because you saw it on Sunday, right?
I saw it on Monday.
Okay, so you saw it Monday. And then we're going to preview Christopher Robin briefly. So Mission Impossible Fallout, first things first. Obviously, lots of expectations going in. It's got the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes. So the most amount of people like it, 97%. Or most of the people at least like it. There we go. Yeah. So I ate up every inch of that film, every second. It just does this thing that I love when you can tell that a director just is really passionate about something and still is inspired by many of the works that came before it. And he's setting up the franchise for things to come after. And I just feel like what he accomplishes here, Christopher McQuarrie, who's slowly turning into one of my favorite personalities. He's a great presence on Twitter. I just actually listened to a podcast with him.
It's a great interview. Yeah, great interview.
Yeah, he's just a really talented dude. And what he does is, he was kind of just talking about in this interview, he was saying stuff along the lines about how working with Tom Cruise, obviously a lot of people don't like him for a lot of very fair reasons. But he said that there's this persona around him and people don't know him quite as much as they don't know him as well as they think. And he was saying that they're like, oh, well, people think he's doing it to stroke his ego and stuff like that. he's doing this because he genuinely cares. And he genuinely wants to, blow people's minds and watch things from an audience perspective. I was talking to my best friend Tyler last week, and he was telling me that after that Macquarie and Cruz watched the premiere screening, Cruz, it was his first time seeing the film in full. He leans over to Macquarie and says, "We can do better." And knowing and hearing that, it makes me think, how? What they accomplish in this film is nothing short of spectacular in terms of spectacle, in terms of intensity, the camera work. Rob Hardy's cinematography is just unbelievable. Lorne Balfe's score is just got Mad Max vibes, Hans Zimmer vibes, Black Panther vibes even. It's just a movie that is constantly moving. The first 20 minutes are pretty methodical, very brisk, but it sets you right back into that universe and gears you up for a very long, very intense, a very sweaty 2 hours. It's an incredible film. I mean, it pays homage to Bond, Jackie Chan, The Raid. There's a shot directly out of The Raid. There's a shot directly out of the Jackie Chan film in the Bronx, Rumble in the Bronx. And it's just, wow, just what a dynamite film. I loved every second. The whole cast was great. Tom Cruise is just bringing it to another level, and the Paris sequence is like 20 to 30 minutes long, and I don't think I breathed once, and my palms were sweating and my hands weren't even clenched. It just blew me away. Just an incredible film. What are your thoughts on Mission Impossible Fallout? Because we haven't even talked about it. I don't even know what you think. So
yeah, so coming in, I was admittedly really nervous. I love Mission Impossible. It's one of my favorite franchises that I think is so consistently excellent. I think even my least favorite, which is 2, is still a solid movie. I recently rewatched the first movie and gained a pretty big appreciation for that. So, and then plus the reaction from the reviews and everything that I was seeing, it was crazy. When you see someone like David Ehrlich giving this a 5 out of 5, I'm like, it just gets real crazy anticipation for me. And for the most part, it lived up to that. I thought it was a really excellent movie. I think that there's a couple parts that are lacking very slightly. I think that I was not totally into the Cavill character. I think that he performed it well, but I think that the way he's characterized as someone who's just doesn't seem like he's that smart for a spy. I think he got outsmarted a little easy for my taste. I thought the action though was impeccably crafted, and it's crazy because for something that goes through such like incredulous action scenes, it feels so rooted in reality, which I think is something that's really impressive when you have those scenes that are these crazy stunts, like the helicopter stuff at the end, but it just feels like you're so in there with them. A lot of that I think has to do with the way that Macquarie shoots the action, where he doesn't use wide shots a lot, especially in these action scenes. So I think you feel like you're just sort of encased in this environment the entire time. You don't really get time to breathe, and I think that sort of ramps up the tension and puts you like in the shoes of the characters, especially when you're following them on car chases and stuff. The way that he shoots car chases, I think, is really interesting. I thought that a huge plus for me was Vanessa Kirby. I thought she brought a sort of sensuality to the movie that I haven't seen since Vanessa Redgrave in the first movie. I thought every time she was on screen, she was dynamite. I thought Sean Harris was really good still as Solomon Lane, as the only sort of recurring villain that we've seen. Rebecca Ferguson just kind of has that it factor on screen. You sort of just have to pay attention to whatever she's doing. I love seeing Michelle Monaghan back. It was a nice paycheck for Angela Bassett to like sit on FaceTime and then have like 2 scenes where she's walking across a building walkway. But I thought she was still pretty solid in those scenes. And yeah, Cruise is just doing Cruise things. A lot of people say he started to show his age. At least in this, I didn't really see it. I think he still looks really young. And man, that sequence in the bathroom was, for me, my favorite action sequence. I thought that was incredible. I mean, the choreography alone, and then the performance by the fake Lark was incredible. I thought all the action stuff that he was doing, the sort of 2-on-1, him fighting Cruise and Cavill at the same time, was insanity. I thought that was a phenomenal scene. But yeah, overall, excellent movie. I think it's firmly in my top 5 of the year as of right now. And yeah, I was stoked. I would love to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what to expect going in, but I got what I expected and then more. The whole cast just brings it in. It's the first time a director is returning, and I'm glad it's Macquarie out of the bunch. And it's the first time that there's a recurring villain, and it just I mean, Rogue Nation is still my favorite because it is one I've seen more. I've only seen this one once, and I think that Rogue Nation, what it does is it's just the way it's written and the way that it's directed and sort of presenting. Because I just recently watched the 1934 version of The Man Who Knew Too Much from Alfred Hitchcock. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah,
but
there's a
you
reason
saw,
he remade it. Let's just say.
Yeah, it's so strange. I was like, I know there's two of these films. I know there's one with James Stewart, but I'm watching this one. But is it Hitchcock? Because everyone said the other one's Hitchcock too. So did he remake a movie he already made? Yeah. So yes, that is true. But and you saw when I was watching the 1934 version, I was like, Macquarie loves old films. He loves classic films, and he pays homage to all of them. I mean, when you look at Rogue Nation, the big opera scene is obviously an homage to The Man Who Knew Too Much. And then the second big set piece takes place in Casablanca, where Ethan and Ilsa's relationship is sort of blossoming, and because there is sort of like this romantic tension between them. And then the third act takes place in London, which obviously like an homage to like James Bond, where it's less like larger scale, and obviously it's like this foot chase through the alleyways. And I just thought what he does is he just admires the grandfathers of the genre so much. I mean, we're only 3 years removed from Mad Max Fury Road, which is arguably the greatest action film of all time, and he pays so much homage to that film in this, like, because you were saying that he doesn't use a lot of wide shots, he uses a lot of very tight shots, and that's why Mad Max Fury Road and Fallout work as well as they do. I mean, obviously there's like grand shots throughout, but throughout the action, everything is tight and focused in frame, and it's just, because here's the thing, George Miller and Christopher McQuarrie, they do it just right to the point where you can see everything that's happening, but if they get too close, then it just becomes too jumbled, and if you get too far, you kind of lose the choreography of everything. And just the way that he choreographs action is beautiful, and I love what he's able to bring to the franchise. I kind of want him to do a seventh film, but I also want to see a new take as well, because that's one of the greatest things about the franchise. Because, like I mentioned earlier with Crimes of Grindelwald, it was... Why can't these franchises just do what Mission Impossible does in early Harry Potter? Like, because look what they do is because it's the first true direct sequel out of all of them too. We know how many years it's been since Rogue Nation, and all the other ones are like unidentified amount of years in time. So what they do is they get a new voice in there to be able to tell a story that is similar kind of within the realm of the universe, and they kind of implement their own cinematic language, and then you get this like really unique product. Even though I think 2 is a pile of steaming garbage. Wow. It is John Woo's film, and I love when you can at least tell that there's a director in the chair. I'd rather get an interesting failure than like a good boring film. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to see that there's a voice there. And I wish that more of these movies would try that, or these franchise films at least, because then you're really just constantly, you're coming back to see the same characters, but they're being told in a different way, and that's so important to me. And I think that's why Star Wars is kind of in a weird path as well in that regard, because they keep getting white males to direct their films, but
also
same
ones
white
with
males,
pretty similar style for the most part, except for Rian Johnson.
Yeah, of course. And it's very strange. But Mission Impossible Fallout, as soon as I got out of the theater, I was like, that's the biggest movie I've seen all year. And I was thinking about all the other films I've seen, and I was like, Infinity War came out this year too, and I was like, that movie to me didn't feel as big as Fallout did. And I think the reason why is because you could feel, you said it, there's these big action set pieces, but it was rooted in like this intimate reality. And like, you just believe that Tom Cruise could do these things because we've seen him do so many other things in the previous films. I mean, that shot of him running, chasing down the bad guy at the end of the Paris sequence, it looks like he's running at the speed of sound, and I think I got chills for the next like 10 minutes. On a broken ankle, no less.
That classic Cruise run. Yeah,
and the movie is self-aware. It's understands what the franchise is, and it's the centerpiece of the franchise to me. it brings the whole table together. And I think if they never made a Mission Impossible film again, I'd be super happy because it ends on this note. But at the same time, I want there to be so many more because I think it is one of the most dynamite franchises we have. And we should appreciate it while we have Tom Cruise and while we have the directors that we have.
I will say I did feel the absence of Jeremy Renner, whose character I've actually grown to like a lot in this movie. Like, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Brandt, and I that could just mean me being a huge Renner fan generally. I sort of wish they would have at least passingly mentioned that a little bit, but I guess that was that, and sort of I don't know, I thought the Cruise Ferguson chemistry was sort of off in this movie compared to Rogue Nation a little bit, and that's sort of the two, like, if you can call them negatives that I had with the movie. There's just a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah. Rebecca Ferguson, she wasn't in the film quite as much as I anticipated, but I still felt her personal dilemma in the grand scheme of things, and I still understood where everyone was on the chessboard in relation to one another. And I think Sean Harris is a great talent, and he's basically the Joker to Ethan's Batman. So it was a dynamite film. It's my favorite film of the year. I didn't think Annihilation could be topped, but here we are with Mission Impossible Fallout. I gave it a solid 98 out of 100. I love the shit out of it, man. And I haven't unseen what I've seen, man. Every day I wake up being like, I can't believe I saw that bathroom scene. I can't believe I saw that Halo jump sequence, which we didn't even talk about. Just an incredible film. So, all right. So this week, opening wide is Christopher Robin, a Disney film. It looks pretty good. I've heard really good things about it. Growing up, I was a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. One year I dressed up as Winnie the Pooh when I was like 3 years old, I think, and it's still one of the greatest pictures ever taken of me. I'm just so adorable. I had really chubby cheeks too. So I'm excited. I'm going to see it Sunday. I'm not seeing it tonight. I'm actually seeing Teen Titans Go tonight with my brother, and then I'm going to see Christopher Robin on Sunday. So quick thoughts on Christopher Robin. Are you going to see it this weekend? Are you excited? What are you anticipating?
Yeah, I'll probably see it this weekend. I wouldn't say I'm like super excited, but I think it looks like a pretty solid movie with like a pretty good emotional core. I'm really excited for Haley Atwell, personally. I think she's a really underrated performer. I'd love to see her in more big movies kind of like this. I mean, I think we kind of know what to expect from McGregor, who's just kind of always delivers for the most part, even in bad movies that we've seen kind of time and time again. Pooh is not a character that I'm super connected to my childhood, so it's not as much of a nostalgia thing for me. Yeah. But I think the big thing for me is one of my favorite independent filmmakers, Alex Ross Perry, wrote the screenplay for this. And actually, I interviewed him when he came to visit my school, and he's an indie director who's done a couple movies, one called Queen of Earth, one called Golden Exits from this year. Queen of Earth is just one of my favorites, my personal favorite movies of all time, but. Yeah, I think he's going to bring an interesting sensibility to the script for this. And yeah, I think Mark Forster's a solid director. Aside from Quantum of Solace, I kind of liked his style.
Yikes.
So, yeah. Generally though, I do like his style. I think that, Pooh's giving me light Paddington vibes, not quite on that level, but I think that it's going to be something that. It's just like a pleasant and warm experience, and the sort of kind of kids movie that I would more gravitate towards bringing like relatives and other people to, rather than sort of the mindless fare that is something like like a Minions or something like along those lines.
For me, Winnie the Pooh, having an older version of Christopher Robin is really cool and is a really unique dynamic because I kind of already know what the movie's about. You can kind of get the vibe from the trailers, like, spending more time with your family, letting go of the past, trying to be strong. And what I love about the 100 Acre Wood universe is that it is just a bunch of different types of characters with different personalities, and they all kind of blend in. You've got the mother-daughter relationship. You've got the pessimist. You've got the optimist. You've got Pooh, who I feel like I embody the most in terms of like, I like, certain things, and sometimes all I want to do is just do those things to just get away from the reality of everything. And so it's a really beautiful world, and I'm really excited to see it, and I really can't wait to see it on Sunday. I really want to see it tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off a double feature, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm excited.
I will say one thing that's sort of making me a little nervous is Disney generally screens their stuff for the press and for critics 2 weeks in advance. but this one's being screened the day before. So I'm not saying that doesn't necessarily spell doom and gloom, but I think that's, I don't know, it's not something that it's super psyched about, but that could mean nothing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm a little worrisome. I realized last night I was scrolling through Twitter and everyone's like, at the press screening for Christopher Robin, and I was like, this is a Disney film, right? Like, this should have happened like weeks ago. But yeah, I'm excited. So we'll see about that. So now on to the third and final topic before we do the ABCs of movies and head out of here for the weekend. Third topic. So James Gunn, director of Slither, Super, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2, about 10 years ago, roughly, he had made some tweets because that was the type of person he was at the time. Very inappropriate tweets and just very offsetting, very upsetting as well. And it kind of made me lose interest in certain pages and certain people over the last few weeks. And it's something that I figured we would talk about just to kind of get some, different dialogue about it. Because there is a lot of things coming up every day. Recently, we had the Guardians of the Galaxy cast release a statement as a group saying that they would like James Gunn to be rehired, and they believe that he's a fully changed person, and that he is different from the person he was a bunch of years ago. Because on one hand, on a personal level, I firmly believe in the act of forgiveness, and I believe that is something everyone should try and get a part of their system, because it's very important, and believe in the growth of people. I firmly believe James Gunn has grown as a person. Look at his Guardians of the Galaxy films. I don't love those films. The first one's okay. The second one is garbage. But in the end, both films are about being better people, about flawed people learning to be better versions of themselves. And I think that's really powerful message for someone that now we know, like, he even hates that part of his life. His brother even acknowledges that he was not a good person at that time. Maybe he was a good person, but his attitude and tone and style of comedy simply did not work. And I think a lot of people relegating it to just dark humor, and people need to just, like, there's a reason it's called dark humor. Like, it's only going to work for literally like 0.01%. It's not going to work for the 99%. And just some of the things he said, my issue personally is that if they were spread out types of dark humor, okay. But all the tweets are about the same thing. And it's very upsetting being the oldest of so many siblings and having, so many young kids in my house. Like, if I heard someone talking about my siblings that way, I'd be very upset and very angry. And then on the other hand as well, I think that Disney has no sense of consistency. They don't have a spine because they allow people like Johnny Depp to still work for them. They allow other flawed people. I mean, a lot of people keep saying, oh, well, Walt Disney was a racist. It's like, okay, here's the deal, is that was a completely different era of film. And obviously he was not exactly a very good person, but during that time it wasn't seen as necessarily a bad thing by the general public because it was a different era. So sort of looking at this James Gunn scenario on a wider scope instead of a vacuum is very concerning to me, and trying to say that, what he said isn't as bad because they're quote unquote jokes. And I don't think they're jokes. I think it's generally disgusting things. And I think Disney made the best business decision they could have made. They don't want that baggage with them with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is one of the biggest franchises in the world right now. And I completely understand businesses are immoral and unethical. They always have been and always will be. And that's just a fact of the matter. They said that they don't plan on rehiring Gunn. And although Chris Hardwick just got reinstated for Talking Dead, I thought James Gunn wouldn't be too far behind in getting his job back. But I don't think it's going to happen simply because Disney is a family-first studio, and what he said way back then is not good at all. So what are your thoughts?
So yeah, I'm glad that we talked about this now and not right when it happened. I think it gives time for some perspective and for some thinking. So yeah, I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, the tweets were, like, just to be quite frank, they're fucking gross. Like, they're disgusting. Yep. And they're not something I would ever try to defend whatsoever. But I do have an issue with mostly just the way that it was handled. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the first thing is that Disney has again, an inconsistent history of this kind of stuff. I don't know if you know who Victor Salva is, but
Yes.
he's the director of Jeepers Creepers. He was hired by Disney to make films for them after he was a convicted sexual abuser of children. So I find that to be very, again, inconsistent on Disney's part. This Gunn stuff was already dealt with in 2012. They already dealt with these tweets. So that's a terrible precedent for me to set, is to just have double and triple jeopardy on the table. So you sort of are always at liberty of being, put on trial again for stuff that you've done in the court of public opinion. I don't understand the need for Disney, I guess, to react to it in this way, mostly because a lot of their audience, like you said, the family audience, is not really reading Mike Cernovich's Twitter. So I don't think that, again, and also like the messenger who pointed to these acts is someone who very clearly doesn't care about them himself, when he's said a lot of other disgusting things that are just about
far
if
worse,
not as bad, if not worse, and repeatedly and much more currently than James Gunn ever has or ever will. So I think sort of arming someone like that with what they think is a victory is a super dangerous. Also, the fact that they didn't even take time to think about it, they just did it on the spot, is really, I think, concerning. If I was a filmmaker with any sort of name in the industry, I would not want to work with Disney. They clearly, like, you could make them tons of money and be supportive of them, and they'll just drop you at the drop of a hat if it's convenient for them. And I think it's just really dangerous precedents in multiple different areas. Again, the tweets themselves I will never defend, but again, we've already dealt with this. He's already answered for these quote-unquote crimes in a social sense. And I don't know, the way that Disney's carrying itself and the fact that they're going to be so dominant in the marketplace, this is really concerning to me, I think, for just the film industry as a whole, because if they're so dominant and this is the way that they handle things, that sort of has influence on other people as well.
Yeah, and with Bob Iger apparently, gearing up for a potential presidential run in a couple years, how is this going to look on him? I mean, obviously he and Alan Horn are the two top dogs there, and they kind of make Kevin Feige had nothing to do with the firing. He's just the guy that kind of oversees the universe. And everything else just goes through Iger and Horn. And it's just a decision that it happened so quick that when I saw it, I was like, this is a joke. But then I had only seen like one tweet at that time, and I was like, oh, okay, like really one tweet? And then I found out it was a slew of other tweets as well that, it's just, we live in a weird society where like even like people all of a sudden notice that Ryan Johnson deleted like 20,000 tweets, and it's just like, okay, listen, like people just need to get off these people's back. Like they're just people like the rest of us, and you're trying to hunt them down and like basically trying to crucify everyone that's potentially good. I mean, it's strange because Gunn did apologize, and apparently Disney said they knew nothing about it, but it sounds like Disney is just trying to cover their ass just to still make Gunn look bad. But in the end, when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes out, and it might be delayed, apparently just a rumor, on one hand, I still am kind of excited to see a new voice get in there. Everyone wants Taika Waititi. I say F off with that. Hopefully we get someone else. But on the other, too, it's like, I think they should rehire Gunn because the cast loves him. Dave Bautista is pissed more than anybody else. And I think that, he's clearly a changed person. And I think that they probably won't because it's Disney and I'm just a lowly citizen of the United States. And in the end, I just feel like, just be careful. First of all, be careful what you say in a social media setting. Jeff Snyder lended some really good perspective to this because he too was fired for saying some things on Twitter. And he sort of went on a rant about it and saying that, he was fired from a $75,000 a year job at Mashable because of what he said. And he said that, when you have to understand where these businesses are coming from. And I feel like a lot of people do. I feel like a lot of people know now that businesses do make these very seemingly easy decisions. But in the end, I just think that Gunn, he's an honest man. He's a changed man. But at the same time, like, some of the things he said are just completely unforgivable. And I think they're just really disgusting. And I think, too, I just realized last week, which I'm also glad I waited to talk about now because I have so much more perspective, is that a lot of those tweets were post Scooby-Doo. Because he wrote Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, the ultimate guilty movie pleasures, the ultimate, to me, meme
Guilty.
movies. Yes, I think those films are incredible on every conceivable level of stupidity. But, it just kind of put a weird taste in my mouth too then, because he's making these tweets after he basically wrote a script that sort of gave the Mystery Incorporated team a harder R version. There was more cleavage, more curse words, more weird sensual behavior. And to me, it just like, I don't know if, maybe there's more dimensions to him just those being jokes. Maybe there, I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying that we can't just exclude that because people are obviously going to say, oh no, he's completely changed. He would never do those things. He's not committing acts. But at the same time, like, he is saying these things around the release of other kid-friendly films, and I think if he's trying to turn those things into sort of like this adult behavior type of thing, it just, maybe there's more there than we think. And I feel like with the release of those Scooby-Doo films and saying those things after, just the one tweet, my friend made a good point about it last week as well, is like, he linked a video or linked his website, but the tweet was like, here's a video of 100 pubescent girls touching themselves, just to like get people to click on the link, but it's his website. And it's like, how is that humor? How is that? That's gross.
I don't think it was his website. I think it was like a stupid YouTube video. It was like a Rickroll kind of thing from what I know of the situation.
Yeah,
but I will say a couple other things. I think that for another thing, Disney just put like the new director in such an awful situation. No matter who it is, that's all that's going to be talked about. It's not, oh, this new person gets to direct this exciting franchise for MCU. It's going to be like, oh, this person's taking over for accused pedophile James Gunn and all this other stuff. It's going to cause a whole cloud over the situation. I think this does also set a dangerous precedent as far as like if people aren't allowed to like change, then what motivation do they have to become like a better person? You know what I mean? Like, if he can't, if he's, if he made bad things in the past, are you just like, you're just done with us now? Like, you're not a member of society. You can't improve. And I think that takes away from people's motivation to become better people. And I think that's sort of a really bad thing to say, I guess, with your actions. So I think that's another just dangerous thing. And yeah, it's I don't know, it's a super nuanced situation. Obviously, there's issues and stuff. But Gunn also came from the world of exploitation cinema, and he's kind of always been this brash, irreverent person who's got really dark humor. So I think that again, Disney also like knew what they were getting into when they hired him. These tweets were already existent. So I think that, again, like the thing I mentioned earlier, the double jeopardy thing is what really gets me. Is like, you deal with something and then you have to keep dealing with it over and over and over again when you've already been told it's resolved, when Disney was already aware of the tweets before. So that's what really bothered me about the situation. Yeah, it's a frustrating scenario, and with Disney acquiring Fox, you're right, it sets a very dangerous precedent. And I don't care what anybody says, people do not realize how bad it is that Disney owns another major studio as Fox. Congratulations, you're going to see X-Men and Avengers 5 in 6 years. In the Avengers.
Yep. We're finally going to get a good Fantastic Four film because it's in the MCU. So, whatever, it's just, also too, people are like, oh, well, if they do that with Roseanne Barr and the lady from the Food Network channel, there's a difference between saying racist things and saying what Gunn said. Because although what Gunn said is very uncomfortable and very disgusting and just horrible, if you say like the N-word or you say like other more racist things.
Well, also that was directly pointed at a specific person, which I think is what makes it dangerous. And it happened like a month ago. It didn't happen 10 years ago. It's something that clearly, in the case of Roseanne, she still thinks to this day. If you look at her activity as we live and breathe, I think there's a huge difference in that regard. And yeah, there's not a lot, for me, there's not a lot of parallels to draw in that situation. They're two totally different scenarios. Well,
and the other thing is too, is when this news first happened, I was convinced, like, because the person, Mike Cernovich or whatever, horrible person, he sought out Gunn to expose Gunn, as this dude that like was trying to take the moral high ground, which it's kind of funny because, I follow Gunn on Twitter, and every day, without getting too political, he bashes Trump and says Trump says all these disgusting things, blah, blah, blah. but Gunn is over here saying pretty disgusting things as well. And it's kind of bizarre how all these like personalities take the moral high ground, but at the same time, I was gonna say that I didn't think it was a political act or a political decision, but it is 100% a political decision. I've completely changed my tune on that with a little more perspective and listening to other people talk about it. But hopefully you can forgive me for changing.
Also, I don't know about you, but I tend to hold my elected officials to higher standards than my film directors.
100%. Yep. Absolutely.
That's all I'll say about that.
Yes. I agree. I also agree in that regard. And I'm just very curious as to how this is going to shape Hollywood moving forward. It's really going to change. And for bad reasons. People should be able to change. Like you said, people should be able to grow as people, and that's important. I know a lot of people that had really rough childhood, teenage, younger adult years, and then they blossomed into really good people, and I think that's really important to see that growth as a person. It's one of the greatest values we have as beings on this earth, and I think that Disney instantly firing him is a very premature and very lazy decision, and now we're just going to be talking about this forever until he gets rehired, or unless the Guardians crew boycotts performing in the film. We'll see. But that's pretty much it for that, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think that's pretty much all I had to say about the situation.
All right, sweet. Well, that'll do it for the topics today. We're going to move into the final segment, my favorite segment of the show, because I like to listen to my guests sort of sound like they're engulfed in like flames because they're so confused as to like why they can't think of a title for the letter, a title of a movie for the letter. So the ABCs of movies. Rules, because all games have rules. The name of the movie must start with the letter of the alphabet. So example, The Greatest Showman only qualifies for T, not G. Franchises, the letter of the franchise begins with counts, but you have to say which film in that franchise. For example, Harry Potter does not count. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets does. Or like Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, or Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. You can't just say Lord of the Rings. You can't skip a letter. And the record is 15 letters held by me and Mikey Brzezinski. So yeah, you just start from A. I'm going to start a timer. You have a minute. I don't know why I never put that in the rules, but you have a minute. So I'll open up my...
So we're just naming off movies, right?
Yep, so you start with A. So you go A, B, C, D. So you'll start with A. You say a movie that starts with the letter A, then B, then C, then D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z. So Mikey and I got to P. So if you can get to P, you tied the record. If you can get to Q, then yeah, then you'll have beaten the record. Yes. All right, sweet. So let me know when you're ready, and then I will start the timer. Let me cancel. So we're gonna do.
Okay. I don't get points off if I name horrible movies, right?
Nope, it's just any movie. You could name off. Think of a shitty movie. Right, off the top of your head.
One of my letters is gonna be a shitty movie.
Okay, sweet. So if you're ready, I'm gonna count down from 5.
Yep.
And then once I say go, as soon as you start with the first word, the first letter, then it's when the 1 minute starts. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
A Most Violent Year, Blade Runner, Children of Men, Dr. Dolittle, Aragon, Freaky Friday,
Yikes.
Grave of the Fireflies,
Yummy.
Her,
Yummy.
Incendies, wow, this is, yeah, you're right, this is putting on the spot. Jaws, wow, yeah, oof, jeez. Killing Them Softly, Letters from Iwo Jima, Monsters, Inc., let's see, Never Go Back,
Time.
Oh my god. Couldn't
Times
even
you
get to
got-
O. Couldn't even get to O.
No, that's good though, man. You got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so you got about 14, which is quite good. And maybe I don't know the letters on my alphabet, so 15 is O and not P. Okay. Anyways, you did a great job. One thing I want to point out, it blows my mind. This is the 13th week I've done this, and when I did it with my friend at work in the break room. And so when I got to K, I was having a tough time. And so I said, for some reason, killing them softly. And then I had Mikey on. He also said killing them softly. I had another person on. They said killing them softly. And now you said it as well. And I'm thinking of all the movies that start with K. And I'm like, Kill Bill, Kingsman, Killer Elite. For some reason, I think about that because I have the Blu-ray for some reason.
It's better than all three of those, by the way.
Yeah. But it's just very strange that Killing Them Softly is the recurring film. And now every time I get to K, I'm going to anticipate someone to say that. I think it's absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, great job. I think you are tied with Brady. I had Brady Warren on a couple weeks ago. Well, technically like a month and a half ago.
Couldn't beat Brady.
Yeah, I think you're tied with Brady. But
I can't believe I
great
couldn't
job
just think
nonetheless.
of Ocean's 11, which is one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies. God damn.
Yeah, when I got to P, I said, what did I say for P? I think I said Parent Trap.
I had Persepolis in my head ready to go, but I just couldn't think of O.
What is that?
It's an animated movie made in the Middle East.
Oh, cool. Interesting. I said Parent Trap, and then when I got to Q, I had like a couple seconds left. I couldn't think of anything for Q.
Really, Quiz Show just rolls off the tongue, I feel like.
Yeah. Quantum of Solace is one that I couldn't think about. There's not too many movies that start with Q off the top of my head. But yeah, great job, great show. Thank you for being on. Is there anything that you've seen recently that you want to talk about? Anything you're excited about going forward? Are you creating any content? I know that you're moving to California shortly, which is a pretty big move. So we talked about your rent for that. And that seems,
brutal.
Yeah,
brutal. My GoFundMe. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a GoFundMe. No, I mean, as far as stuff that I've seen recently, I guess I'll pick something that is a little more obscure. So about a week ago, I watched a movie called Obvious Child. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
Starring Jenny Slate, who's going to be in the upcoming Venom movie. And basically, it stars her who as a young comedian who ends up pregnant after a one night stand and sort of has to deal with that. It's a child she doesn't really want, but she sort of has to come to grips with whether she wants to go through with the abortion and stuff. And she's just trying to figure out her place in the adult life. It's a really great indie. Again, it's an A24 movie, so I think people will be pretty psyched about that element, I guess. But yeah, she gives a really great performance. It's super heartwarming and makes me laugh and makes me smile. And yeah, I like that a lot. As far as content I'm creating, I'm not really actively creating anything as of right now. I mean, you can check me out on Letterboxd always. Just search my name, Paul Oyama. And yeah, I'm going to be spending the fall in Los Angeles. I'm going to be interning there through a school program at my school, Indiana University. So that's going to be super exciting. But yeah, I'm not really creating any content per se. But you might find me just around on the internet talking movies, various places.
Yeah, it was awesome having you on. I recently, obviously, because I talk to you very often now, more than I ever anticipated. Because we're very similar types of people. We had a very long conversation about baseball, which is really funny. But yeah, like I kind of mentioned to you, I kind of want to get a co-host or someone that's on every week with me, just because I feel like I'm able to sort of build a camaraderie, bounce off of them, because I was telling my friend this, and I was saying it's nice having a new guest on every week. And if I were to have a co-host, I'd still try and at least get a new guest on just to get some different perspectives. But I feel like having a new guest on, it kind of puts me in a corner because I want to be able to talk about all these things, but I don't know what type of humor they have, and sometimes it's my first time ever talking to these people. Yeah. So it's very, you have to kind of build something there. This is our first time ever technically talking over a voice channel. Yeah. But no, I mean, it feels like I've known you for a while, mainly because we spent like 6 hours just talking about so much. But yeah, thank you for being on. I'm going to be working on my Mad Max Fury Road and Seven Samurai video this week, The Beauty of Simplicity. Very excited to talk about that. It's a very harrowing task because you have to do both films extreme justice, especially Seven Samurai. And then I'm working on some Newt Scamander stuff, like I said, and then I got another very big project coming next year. I also have a really cool opportunity coming up that I can't quite talk about yet.
You're the director of Guardians 3, right?
No, that would be pretty nice. It'd be awful. You think Guardians 2 is bad? No. You don't know. I don't even know how to move a camera on a dolly. So, anyways, that'll be it for this week's episode of the Showtime with Roman podcast. I'm glad to be back. Sorry if it seems like I'm a little rusty. It's been so long. I haven't had internet. I've been watching so many movies, going on a very long cinematic journey, discovering more about myself and more about why I love the medium that I do. Thank you again, Paul, for being on. I got to have you on again very soon. So much coming out, so much more to talk about. That's it for this week. Keep going to the theater, keep on watching movies, and that's going to be it. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, guys.
Peace.